That's what I think also comics do, is they are able to look at emotions objectively. Or like if you're like dealing with a heckler, let's say, and you're actually getting mad, the comic isn't funny anymore. They stop being funny and they're more dealing with their emotions because they're not thinking. I tell everyone to go into comedy because it gives you that moment to realize where you are. Then you step back. And in comedy, it goes, well, what's the funny about this, right? Whereas in the actual healthy way of being like, what does this mean?
The following is a podcast with Garret Jamieson. He's a comedian who recently released his album, Periodic Jokes. He's been featured on SiriusXM, CBC Comedy, MTV Canada, Comedy Network, and Etalk Canada. In the podcast, we talk about why everybody should do comedy in order to become introspective, self-aware, and look at your emotions objectively in order to fully understand yourself and find the funny. I used to be this depressed, introspective kid looking at nihilism and absurdism, but now I do the same thing and just make it funny. I can't stress the importance of finding the funny. It'll save your life. I hope you enjoy the podcast. What up, fools? This is the Pedrosa podcast, episode number 39. Today I'm here with Garret Jamieson.
Oh, hey, how's it going?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm all right. Yeah. It's nice being here.
Yeah.
This is a big table.
This is a very big table. It's a conference room.
Oh, I figured that. This isn't your bedroom. No.
Garret Jamieson, he graduated from the Humber Comedy program, the one I'm currently enrolled in now, but you graduated in about 2006.
Correct. Right? Yeah, that is very correct. Yeah. You know a lot about me already.
I'm doing a bunch of research, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, so is that when the program, like, officially started in 2006?
No. It started, I think, just after the new millennia.
So 2001?
Yeah, in around there. I think. It might even started in, like, 99, but I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah.
Because I know there's people who are ahead of me. In the sense of, like, if you think of it as a lineage thing. Yeah.
I don't. Was Yuck Yucks like affiliated at the time with?
Yeah,
Humber?
It was affiliated. Is it still affiliated?
It is. Yeah, we have like the Humber Tuesday nights and everything.
Yeah.
One thing Mark Breslin, the CEO, said, he was saying how like it takes 10 years to be a great comic. So then like we all like kind of looked at each other. This was like during the history of comedy class.
Well, like overnight success is 10 years.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So some people can be doing it for 50 years and they're still not a great comic.
What do you think makes a great comic?
I think let's see here. What makes a great comic is the ability to say the truth. Yeah.
That's what this podcast is about.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. And like being a comic doesn't always necessarily mean what garners a laugh.
Okay.
Yeah, because a lot of people go, oh, funny means comedy. I'm like, no. Like when people say they love comedy, like they come up to me and they're like, oh, I love comedy. I'm like, you know, you love laughing. Like, that's what you love, and you love laughing. But to truly love comedy, there's so many different types of comedy, so many different aspects to comedy, that some comedy is sad. It's very upsetting.
Yeah.
Or depending on the audience, might find it very upsetting and disturbing.
Yeah.
But then other aspects, it's, oh, that's funny because I laughed at it. So that's what's funny.
Yeah.
But really.
Funny and sad are like two sides of the same coin, I feel.
Yeah, like, because like you cry when you laugh and you can cry when you're sad.
Yeah. So what avenue do you think you are doing? Like, are you kind of doing both? Because I know your album, Born Crying, Die Laughing.
Yeah.
There was a lot of like painful truths in there, but you like kind of masked it through funny.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing is that I avoid the actual emotions. That that's what I think also comics do, is they are able to look at emotions objectively.
Okay.
Because if a comic actually gets mad, or like if you're like dealing with a heckler, let's say, and you're actually getting mad, the comic isn't funny anymore. They stop being funny and they're more dealing with their emotions because they're not thinking.
But what would you say about like Bill Burr?
Well, some comics, they're able to put themselves in a fake mad.
Okay, so so none of that's real. Huh?
No, like he just found a voice where he gets angry and gets upset, but he's written all that before. He's probably dealt with the anger that he already has, and but anger is a good fuel.
Yeah.
Like it does push you and drive you, but you have to also step back, be aware of the anger, and then have a clear mind.
Yeah. So, what do you think was the thing that got you initially into comedy? It was like 2005. the September program starting to
Yeah.
come up in a couple months. What made you?
What made me want to do comedy?
Yeah.
I've always wanted to do comedy ever since I was a child. Yeah, so there was this thing called Caroline's Comedy Hour on A&E.
A&E.
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah, it was a it was a TV network. So back when there was TV, remember TV, everyone? So back when there was TV, there was this Caroline's Comedy Hour and Evening at the Improv.
Okay.
And sorry, I'm getting a call.
Yeah,
Probably,
no worries.
nothing. It's a scam, I'm sure.
It was like Chinese scams.
Yeah, only scammers are coming after me now.
I always just. Do you ever role play with them?
Oh yeah. Am I allowed to swear?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so so yesterday, literally, I got a phone call and the guy was like, "This is Rogers and Fido calling," and I was like, "Sorry, who?" And he's like, "Rogers or Fido?" I'm like, "Rogers or Fido?" And he's like, Rogers and Fido? I'm like, Rogers and Fido are calling me now?
Yeah.
And then, like, I kept playing up, like, not being able to understand him. And then he just snaps and goes, I fucked your mother and your sister.
Oh,
and I was like, I'm like, you didn't.
You probably call your mom and sister just to make sure.
Is there like a guy, like he's possibly a scammer? Don't buy anything that he's saying. Yeah. So my mom fucked a scammer, I guess. Yeah.
But yeah, you're talking about the comedy hour, the improv comedy hour.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So like watching that, it was a lot of comics that weren't famous, I guess, but they're comics. And I'm like, I don't know what they're doing, but I want to do that. That's what I want to do. So my life has been a pursuit to do that, and I think I'm doing it now.
Yeah. And so when you graduated Humber, did you have any like self-doubt of doing this or anything like that?
No, because Humber just allowed me the opportunity to come and focus on doing it. Like taking 2 years to immerse yourself in comedy, be taught by a bunch of amazing teachers, and learn kind of the ropes of what it takes to be a performer, I guess, whether it be comedy, actor, whatever.
Yeah. Were you stand-up focused at the time as well?
Initially, I was very stand-up focused, but I also wanted to be a writer. Yeah. Right? Like work in a writing room, a writer's room. Depends on the room. It's writer's writing. But I was stand-up focused, and then I was sketch focused. But then our sketch troupe was coming to an end, and I saw that, so I went back into stand-up. That's where I am now. Your sketch troupe Boom, right? Yeah, the Boom. Yeah.
And you guys started off at Humber together?
There was predominantly a lot of the troupe members were in our class together. But then from there, we incorporated former members and former comedians, I guess. Not former comedians, just comedians who formerly went to Humber, I guess. There was a couple who obviously didn't go to Humber. But we were a fairly successful Canadian sketch troupe that nobody's heard of, but that means you're successful in Canada.
Do you think there's a ceiling in Canada?
Oh, 100% there's a ceiling in Canada. Yeah, I think with social media, it's opened up that ceiling. Now it's not so much a glass ceiling as it is like a convertible top. So you're still in the vehicle, and the roof can kind of close, and so you're still around, but you're stuck in Canada in a way. But there's still lots of work to be had. Like people want to laugh, or they enjoy comedy, they say.
I'd love to hear a story from graduating till now.
It's a lengthy one.
I would love to hear it.
Since 2006, you know.
2006 till 2024. What is that? 15
till 107/2024. Till April. What day is it? April 26, 2024. 1 p.m.
So what was your journey just like after graduating? Because we just did I just saw the second years do the industry show, and there's like talks of like what is there to do now? You know, like because no one's really holding your hand anymore. You know what I mean?
Well, like, what is success to you?
Making a living off of comedy.
Okay, so I've managed to make a living off of comedy.
Do you have, like, what is that your personal success as well?
Yeah, like, in my mind and my wishes is always like, I just want to make money doing this, and I want to be able to support myself doing this, and at the same time, I also want to be happy doing this. So I think I'm there. Yeah, but like obviously, I can now up the money maybe, or
Yeah.
up the the fame side of things. But like that's never been a drive of mine. It's always been I got into comedy to laugh with my friends. Yeah, where some people will get into comedy because they're like, oh, this is a surefire way to make money and be famous. And then I'm like, yeah, but you're going to be sad and alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, no one's going to be around you if you make tons of money early on. Like,
No?
No, I don't think so, unless you have friends before you get into that world.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after graduating, what kind of path did you go towards?
After graduating, so it was a lot of sketch troupe or sketch focused comedy, and so we had a show at like before Comedy Bar. Gary Rideout, the owner of Comedy Bar, he ran a show out of a bar called the Brunswick House, which is now a Rexall.
Ooh.
Yeah. The bar is now a Rexall. But he approached them to be like, hey, I want to turn the back room into like a comedy space. They told him no. So he went and opened up his own venue known as the Comedy Bar.
Yeah.
And there was a sketch troupe called the Sketchersons, who were out of the Diesel Playhouse in like the Second City type thing.
Yeah.
And what was kind of interesting is like he started his own place for the Sketchersons basically. And then he asked one of the troupe members there if he wanted to be a head writer for our troupe. He said yes. We changed our name from Boom Shakalaka to The Boom. And then they wanted us to open for the Sketchersons, but we were like, no way, man. Like, no, we're going to do it ourselves. So we ran a show out of the supermarket in Kensington.
Okay.
And then had about 4 years there, sold out shows every month. And they were a party. They were an amazing time.
Yeah, it sounds like such a fun time.
Yeah, it was such a fun time. Then we moved to the Drake Underground. And and then sold out those shows. And it was a very special moment that nobody saw, but a lot of people saw at the same time. Yeah. But it was like kind of like posting everything you do online.
Oh yeah, I see. It was when people were more in the moment.
Yeah, it was like being aware of what's happening live.
Now a lot of people go to places to just post, I feel.
Oh yeah, no, that's all it is. And then you have comics who are just running through crowd work material now, and they're like, "This is going to be something." I'm like, This isn't good.
Yeah.
And I'm also guilty of that now too. Just making something out of nothing. This has got to be something. And then you're like, post it.
Yeah.
But really, it's just nothing.
Mm-hmm. So after The Boom, you've done it for 4 or 5 years at the Drake Underground, where you mentioned how you guys kind of separated. So what was that whole process?
So at that time, we were doing a lot of myself and another two troupe members working down in New York, and then building momentum down there. And as we were breaking up, we weren't breaking up, we were just going different directions, really. Yeah. So it was like we were coming to an end, but we're all friends still.
Of course, yeah.
Right? And it was just because, it's the next stage in life. So a handful moved to New York, a couple moved to LA, then a few of them remained here.
Yeah.
And then from there, I was pursuing stand-up, and that's taken me, through Southeast Asia, through Australia, through Europe, through all of North America.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've performed. Yeah. So stand-up is my new passion.
Yeah.
Yeah. New passion, my still passion.
Yeah. So sketch mainly, but you've done some acting as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You had like a web series and everything.
Yeah, a web series called Heavy Metal Hitchhiker, and that came from like this career. People are like, oh, you just do stand-up, and you're like, no, it's very confusing if you have one job, like if people at home have like one job, then they think of it as like, oh, that's your career, that's what you do. Whereas like I think in comedy, since it's such a large umbrella, you do it all. So anytime like something comes your way, like I've opened a comedy club, shut down a comedy club, help run another comedy club.
Yeah.
I've traveled opening for bands, right? And then in doing that, they're like, oh, you've traveled with a band and traveled with these crazy metal bands. Then do you want to work with Banger and make this web series about being a roadie? From there, also commercial work.
Yeah. You were in the Subway ad.
Yeah, a Subway ad, which was like very popular.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people don't know, but a Skittles ad.
Oh, were you?
Yeah, Skittles ad. That one. But it's funny. Yeah, I'll get into just the story. But with the Skittles ad, working that, it was where you could touch the screen, and then something would happen. So it was like this revolutionary ad where it actually connected the people at home with the ad.
Okay.
And so then that ad ended up winning Cannes Lions Film Awards.
Oh, really?
So yeah, so it's like where they have like movies, the Cannes Film Festival, they have like the Cannes Lion, so the commercial side of things. And that commercial won a ton of awards. And then was taught to all my friends who then went into advertising, and they're like, "You're being taught in class right now," and I'm like, "Yeah, that's cool.
Crazy."
Yeah,
yeah, but you're mentioning getting into the story of the Skittles commercial.
Yeah, so like, well, it's just the commercial that won the awards. Yeah. And so then I'd be on magazines, like they used it as the cover and all this stuff. So I'm like known in the advertising world without being known.
Yeah. Do you still do advertisements at all? Like commercials and all that?
I would, if it comes my way, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, it's you focus on what I guess is working, and right now, with my one agency folded, so now I'm with another agency, and it's just they're moving in a different direction, more audio based. So with the comedy records, so it's like a lot of my auditions are like for radio ads and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then also just doing shows with them.
Yeah. This is extremely great to hear because I don't know, at least in my first year, a lot of people are like, there's no money in comedy.
Yeah,
you're kind of fucked when you leave.
There's
you know?
There's no money in comedy itself, but if you're doing something like your podcast, for example, the podcast is like, what's its goal?
To just generate revenue so I could just keep doing it, and to also talk to creative individuals.
What is your goal? Like I get the money, but like who are you trying to reach?
Like audience wise or guest wise?
Audience wise.
Audience wise, I don't know. I feel like me 5 years ago when I was like kind of confused about life.
Okay.
I feel like creatives and philosophers, they kind of think the same, like they have the same thoughts. And I'm just trying to understand life. Okay. Understand life better.
So it's kind of like a life coach kind of thing?
I guess, but like in a funny, creative way, not in like a scammy e-commerce way.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
But like in the end, it will become that. You understand? You understand that? Yeah, it will become that if you want to make money at it. But like there are people who will support you, and there's not to say that won't make money, but you'll make enough to live off of. And like I love that about life. Yeah. Like whatever you want or need, I guess, it'll come into your life. Yeah.
That's a great perspective.
As long as you are working
towards it.
Like people who sit at home and just wish, they're not getting anything. But somebody who's working and trying to avidly go towards a goal, you might not get to that goal, but it'll take you on a journey, and eventually you'll get somewhere where you're like, this is better than what I wanted.
Yeah. That's a great mindset. One thing I like to talk about is the phases of life we kind of go through. You know, we kind of go through different phases. Just like there's this thing. It's like we go through seasons of life, kind of. You know. So what would you say right now would be like the phase of your life after 16? And 117
oh my God,
years of comedy, or even just in your life in general. It doesn't have to be career based.
In my life, like I'm at a stage where I'm still enjoying it, and I've never, like when I started, you'd meet like these older comics, and they were like so angry about their life, and they hated the road, and they're like, it's pointless, don't even bother. But I tell everyone to go into comedy. Yeah. Like I think everyone should do comedy. I think that slogan, everyone's a comedian. I think everyone is a comedian. Yeah. And a lot of people, I think, don't see the humor in life. They don't see the humor that goes on around them. I find like when I tell stories about my life, like my day-to-day, people will go, oh my God, why does this always happen to you? And I'm like, it happens to you too. It's just that you're not paying attention. Yeah.
And they can't really articulate.
Maybe they can't articulate it, but I really think a lot of people walk around with their heads down into their phone and get angry at what they see that's being force-fed to them, rather than stopping, looking around, having an interaction with people, and realizing that well, that was weird. Like, that was kind of strange. That was funny, I guess.
Yeah. I always try to go out and talk to people, like, of everybody, you know, just because, like, you never know what's going to happen.
You never know what's going to happen. You never know where it's going to lead. Like, that's the other thing is, like, I was on just even in New York subway once, and my friend was telling me the story where he, when he was down there, this lady that he knew would throw these massive parties with tons of booze and everything. And then after the party, they'd be left with all this food and booze, and then she'd invite them over, like my friends, to be like, hey, you guys can drink whatever you want, right? And have your own little party.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, that's great. So then as we were walking off the subway, I was pretending to be her. I'm like, hey, can you do me a favor? Like, you know, to drink the booze.
Yeah.
But I said, hey, can you do me a favor? And a guy in a business suit was like, yeah, sure, what do you need? And then I realized, oh my God, like, that's New York. Like, this guy is a capitalist. Like, he doesn't know who I am, but already he was on board to be like, yes, next big thing, I can help you, no problem. But I find a lot of people aren't like that.
Yeah.
Right? They're like, can you help me? And they'd be like, leave me alone. Like, don't talk to me. And now I'm going to continue on my life, and you continue on your life.
Do you think that's like America though? Like, I wouldn't say New York, but like America, I feel like people are just like in their own path. I think Canadians are much like nicer in a way where we're like that. I don't know.
No, but that was in New York City, right?
Yeah.
So like, but I find Americans are, because they're brought up to be in the quote greatest country in the world, right? They're told that. And Canada's taught that we're nice, right? So we think we're nice. But we have a very passive-aggressive view, I think, in life.
Yeah?
Yeah. Like American audiences, after you perform to American audiences, like Canadian audiences, they'll go, good job. Or if you do horrible, they'll be like, and they walk away. Or they don't say anything and they leave. American audiences will come up and they'll tell you how great that was. They'll be like, can I buy you dinner? Can I hang out with you? Or is there something I can do for you, and then, or you do something for me, and it's kind of like an I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine, like, because they'll be like, I can use you if you can use me, whereas Canada's like, I got my pile of nothing, and you don't come near it. You get none of it, right? And you're like, okay, man, like, and so that's, I think, Canada, there is, once again, the ceiling. And it's because everyone's hoarding their nothing.
Yeah, hoarding the nothingness. What are Southeast Asian people like? Because you mentioned you toured in Southeast Asia.
Amazing. Like, so when I was down there in Kuala Lumpur, there was an amazing, this guy, John Atherton, who was an Australian, who basically brought what we think of stand-up comedy to Southeast Asia.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was there before, though?
A lot of what we now watch, like drag shows.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so a lot of their performers were drag performers. I don't know if that's the name for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a lot of drag performers where they're like it was men dressed in women's clothing, basically, wearing makeup, very flamboyant.
Yeah.
But they would be telling jokes, sex jokes, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's
Still doing stand-up.
It's exactly what stand-up is.
Just
in drag. Yeah. And then this guy, John Atherton, brought like the idea of like American stand-up comedy, right?
Just like
so it's
don't dress up.
Yeah, just wear what I'm wearing right now. Wear your hoodie and just like hold your microphone and be like, I got some ideas. Yeah, and then come up with like one-liners or whatnot, right?
Yeah.
But he built that world out there, and it was kind of amazing being there because when I was there, it was maybe like you're like, oh, stand-up's only like 6 years old here.
Oh,
like, it's so new, but the comics were all so into it. They loved it, and they were like very passionate about it. And like the comics there, they're like they would actually touch on political opinions. And the crazy thing is, like, when comics and people here in Canada and America, they're like, it's like you can't say anything anymore, right? I'm like, no, you can say whatever you want here. You just have to deal with
the repercussions
of it. Whereas you're not going to jail. Whereas if you're in Southeast Asia, if you say the wrong thing, you're going to prison.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm like, that's real, like what stand-up should be in a way. So I admire them a lot. Because, like a few of one guy was like, do not make fun of Buddha. Right? And I was like, that was in Myanmar. He's like, do not make fun of Buddha. He's like, one comic came here, just had a throwaway joke about Jesus and Buddha, and then was put into a hard labor camp for 12 years.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
For how long?
12 years.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So
that's crazy.
You know, it's wild, right? So it's like when people say they can't say anything, I'm like, you clearly have never been anywhere else. You feel stifled, which is fine. Fair enough.
Yeah, I tend to notice a lot of the at least Born Crying Die Laughing.
Mm-hmm.
It's mainly about your personal life. Do you ever try to push the boundaries in the sense of like a political view? I guess it's like you're saying it. You got to deal with the repercussions and everything. But
Yeah, like I think I have a good objective mind.
Okay.
And I'm good to. I think I'm able to argue both sides of any story. Like, because I'm not emotionally invested into it. Like
Yeah,
I said,
it doesn't
I push
really
it.
matter.
Yeah, like I push all of that down and I just deal with it, avoid it, and deal with it through comedy, right?
Yeah, of course.
So then, so sometimes I don't know, like I always go against what is popular for some reason.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know if it's
The counterculture?
Counterculture, or like my mental, just a mental block that I have, and just like I'll automatically switch into this, where I'll write funny jokes or what I think is funny, but I know that it's gonna annoy whoever's listening.
Yeah. I had a sketch that I did in class. It was called Far Out.
Mm-hmm.
It was like this Christmas sketch or whatever, right? Where we got to do something based on the holidays, and it was like Santa Claus was doing a split test for Walmart. He was like far left and far right, and I was talking about like it's recorded on my Patreon.
Yeah.
But like, because I didn't want to put it public, but it like really attacked both ends, and I'm like, I feel like this is definitely offending people in my class.
Yeah, but I think that's brilliant, and I love that, because like you are looking at both sides as objectifying. Do you objectify? I don't know, but like you look at both sides of things, and you can see other people's where they're coming from. Like you're more empathetic than your average person, which is amazing.
Yeah, and then what? And then just convert it into like outrage to like piss them off. So it's like empathy and outrage together.
But that was like, I find it so funny when people go, when I was at one show and I'm like, I don't know what to talk about. What should I tell? And they're like, tell a joke. I'm like, yeah, well, obviously I'm going to tell a joke, but I'm like, what kind of joke do you want to hear? Because I got like a lot of stuff. And the guy goes, tell an offensive joke. And I know what he means. Like, if someone said, tell an offensive joke, what do you think of an offensive joke?
Like something racist, something.
Right,
like,
but then
with gender.
Yeah, so you think to offend the left, right? This guy was not a left-leaning person. So I was like, I sized him up, and I came up with a joke that would attack them, right?
Yeah,
and,
like anti-vaccine or something.
Anti-vaccine, yeah, like pro-vaccine, right?
Oh, yeah.
It'd be pro-vaccine.
Yeah,
so
pro-vaccine.
So I knew like that this guy, and he got so offended. I'm like, isn't it weird that you got offended? So when people say tell an offensive joke, they mean telling a joke that other people find offensive, not that I'll find offensive.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. So it is really funny when people ask for offensive jokes. I'll be like, okay, I'll offend you. I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah. Do you ever feel bad offending people at all when doing comedy? Because that's like mainly my comedy. It's offensive comedy.
No, I don't feel bad offending. I feel bad if I'm attacking.
Okay.
Like if I'm purposely doing it to hurt, then I'll feel bad. But if someone gets offended by what I say, I don't feel bad, because that's on them.
Yeah.
Like I know what I'm saying is not attacking. It's not bullying. It's not being mean. But I'm saying something that someone might not agree with, or it might trigger an emotion in them, and so I don't feel bad for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about fame.
Okay. I know lots about this.
Has fame affected you in any way? Like, just like in an ego sense?
No. I don't think so.
No?
Yeah, because with doing stand-up comedy, it's a very humbling experience, right? Like one day you can be performing for 1,000 people.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, the next day I'm going to go to an open mic, and there's
like
just other comics, and there's 6 other comics, nobody's in the crowd, and you're like, this is so different than the 1,000 people from the day before.
Yeah. So it doesn't really matter to you at all, like the fame. I guess you mentioned it earlier. You don't really care about the fame or the fortune of.
No, like it is nice when it comes your way, and it's nice when you get booked to do shows that you're getting paid really well and put up in hotels and taken out for dinners and stuff and being shuttled around. That's really nice, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then I think in comedy you do have moments where it's Oh, but I also put myself in those situations. Maybe I do it to stay humble. I don't know.
You put yourself in like the trenches.
I sign up to the open mics. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like I'm above this. I'm better. Like a new comic was talking the other day to me and a friend of mine who's a very well-known comedian. And he was like, oh man, like he's like, I went to this open mic and, you know, like normally it's like shows are great and it's full and like, but this was like a true open mic. Like no one was there. I'm like, go on. And he's like, yeah, I told a joke. No laughs. No laughs. He's like, all I could hear was the bartender cleaning a glass and a fridge. And like, he's like, it's so upsetting. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, fuck you. Like, you know how many fridges I've performed to? Like, just silence, man. Like, you're just going on stage to get the material out so you know how to say it later.
Okay. So, but then how do you test if something's funny then? If, like...
Oh, you know.
Yeah?
Yeah, you truly know. You know it's fun. After a while, like when you start out, you don't know. So, like, you know what you find funny, but you don't know what the world finds funny, right?
Yeah.
So, like... you'll find in your journey that you'll start and then you'll do a bunch of things that you'll fail, you'll bomb, right? And then you'll come to a point where you look back at your first set and you go, I'm the same, like what I find funny is the exact same. I just now have the career or the past to now understand what not to do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like you'll always be you. That's the other amazing thing. Like your sense of humor, I don't think really changes.
Yeah. How long did you go through that phase of like the trenches of open mics?
Still kind of do.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, but also at the same time, the open mic world is a great place to hang out.
Yeah, of course.
Like in Toronto, like they might have like, you'll be with the same people, right? So your friends, like there'll be some good open mics that you're like, oh, I'll hit this one because I do get something out of it. It's not performing for fridges. There's actually an audience here, right?
Yeah.
Or you'll treat some shows that people have kind of like open mics because if they're not paying you, you're like, well, this is to me an open mic.
Oh, I see.
So so then if you're not paying me, I'm working on stuff.
Yeah.
But I'll use your audience. This is my payment.
Yeah.
So it's like kind of that they get me, I get them.
Yeah.
Right. So what was the question? Actually, I was just yammering.
No, I was just talking about like the trenches of open mics.
Oh yeah,
That's
so
like
still do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so it's the time to hang out with people.
The time to hang out
and
with
see
people.
what other comics are talking about because you don't want to be in your ivory tower and be one of those comics that just starts spouting off nonsense that was something that was relevant 20 years ago.
Yeah. I'm personally not like a huge stand-up. Like I admire the art so much.
Yeah.
I find it like it's just for me personally it's such a difficult art to master. That's why I'm like into videos and podcasts because like if we fail, we can redo this
and you can edit it to how you want.
Yeah, but stand up, it's like instant shame. Like if you bomb,
And the best in stand up is to get to a point where you don't care about bombing.
Yeah.
Like you almost have just as much fun bombing as you do kill it, right?
That's crazy.
The worst place you want to be is mediocre, I think.
Okay.
Where you're like, unless you're working for somebody who's paying you and you're like, okay, I'll try to kill, and I don't want to bomb. But if you are going to bomb the worst, like where people are walking home going, what? Because they'll talk about you. They'll talk about you if you're the best. They'll be like, that guy was hilarious. Or if you were the absolute worst, they'll be like, what the hell was that? And then I guarantee you they'll talk about the person who bombs horribly over the person
the killer.
Yeah,
True. I want to shift into the next part of the podcast. Is there anything this is what I like to ask my guests. Are you currently struggling with anything at the moment in personal life, in a cosmic sense, anything?
Anything through the cosmic sense?
Yeah, just like philosophically or
philosophically.
You ever think about philosophy like that?
Oh yeah, always. Like what am I doing? Where are we?
Yeah.
Well, so like, is this a reality? Are we in? Is
right
this,
now?
Yeah, is all this real?
Are we being filmed right now?
Yeah,
like
well, it's like we are. I think those are cameras, right? Unless I'm just imagining all this.
Yeah.
But I do believe that. I guess the things that I'm dealing with is sometimes is it a reality, or like because people come into your life and you're like, this person is a program. Like the way they talk to me, the way that they're unable to actually connect. they almost feel like they were an AI bot.
Yeah,
Just,
ChatGPT.
yeah, just asking you regular questions, and you're like, oh, well, are we actually getting anywhere with this?
Yeah,
Right?
I hope it's not that right
No,
now.
I know. I realized in saying that you'd probably be
It's
thinking
like the subtext.
So anyway, your show, is this an AI simulation? No, I don't think that at all.
Yeah.
But I do think that when I'm out in public sometimes talking
Yeah.
to some people.
What would they say?
What would they say? They would, it's like they're almost like trying to get information. And I know that's how people are, like they ask.
Yeah.
But it almost feels like they're trying to get information to understand how human beings work.
Oh, okay.
Like, yeah, I don't
kind
know.
of like aliens in
like
skin
almost
suits.
like, maybe that's what it is. Yeah, like it could be like they're aliens in skin suits talking to me.
They're like, how often should I eat? Like, what questions?
Exactly.
is
And
this?
also I know talking about this makes me sound very schizophrenic, but I'm also aware of what's real and what's not
Yeah.
real. Like this person is a genuine human being.
Yeah.
Or are they? You know?
Ooh.
Yeah. Ooh, who knows? You know?
What if it's like the pandemic made them lose all their like social like cues and like how to talk to human beings?
And
you
that's
know?
possible. Like, you know, they fell off their bike, right?
Yeah.
Like if we had 2 years where we weren't riding around in society and I forgot how to be a human being.
I had
as
to like
well.
learn how to talk to people again, you know?
Yeah, no, it's tough, right? Like, yeah, when you're not interacting face to face with somebody, and then now
Yeah.
you're forced to, you're like, oh, audiences have changed too. They're
Yeah.
like, yeah, they're very quiet, they're very nervous, and I don't know if it's a young audience who've never been to a comedy shows, and now they're like, let's experience comedy. So they come to shows, or they're worried that what they see online is comic destroys heckler.
Oh,
right?
yeah,
So then
yeah.
they think that that's what comedy is.
They don't
but-
want to sit in the front and anything.
no, and they're like,
Yeah.
and so everyone's really nervous to talk, and
Yeah.
or even I'm like, how are you guys doing? They're like,
Good.
But yeah, but then the audience as well need to be trained or retrained to be like, you can laugh, you can make noise when the host goes, how are you doing? Yeah.
Yeah. So going back to like the people and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So how do normal people are supposed to interact with each other?
Oh, I guess there is no right or
There's
wrong.
no
There's no
right
right
or
or
wrong.
wrong. There is no
Yeah.
right or wrong. But you can, I don't know, like you sense something off with some people. And
Okay.
like, small talk is one thing. Like that's, I think, people being people. Like, oh, the weather. Oh, yeah, the traffic was crazy. Oh, yeah, like with it. But then some people, it's almost like they're trying to get deep, but it's not quite connecting. I don't know. Like, I don't know how to explain it because I'm just going off the top of my head right now.
Yeah.
Of interactions, but yeah, it's almost like they don't. Maybe they're not emoting. Maybe that's what it is. It's like
Oh, they're like talking
they're
like
asking the
this?
deep questions. Yeah, but they're kind of talking as if they're. So how would you go about a scenario where you lost a loved one? That kind of thing. And you're like, okay, well, I'll try to answer this as best I can.
Yeah. I think deeper connection is built through a shared vulnerability. Would you agree with that at all?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
And as do you know your attachment style?
I don't know.
No?
Like I know the love languages stuff.
Okay, love.
Is it
what's your
similar?
Similar in a way. What's your love language?
Probably like physical touch and just over the fucking and quality time.
And quality time. Yeah.
I don't really care about like material possessions.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would you say is it for yourself?
All of them, but what predominantly be words of affirmation.
Okay.
Quality time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also like, because when you think about gifts, you're like, oh, it's like stuff, but it's not buying things. It's like, oh, I noticed that you could really use this object, and you're like, oh, it's a microphone. Right? And you're like, I could use this. Thank you for this gift. You thought what I do for a living, and you gave me this gift. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's because like a lot of people say, anyway, that's the other thing that I'm dealing with is my ADHD.
The love life?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
no, but the connection, my attachment style is, I always thought I was secure, but it turns out I'm a fearful avoidant.
Fearful avoidant.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
So fearful avoidant is, so out of all the attachments, there's the secure, which those apparently is 50% of the world, which I don't know how that's possible.
Yeah,
that
right?
50% of the world is secure. And then the next level is a dismissive avoidant.
Okay.
And they're like a lot of like people who are very got themselves put together, usually are really good at the office, or very driven people because they don't have time for relationships. I don't need a relationship. They're like the Scrooges, basically, of
the love world,
right?
Yeah.
They're like, I don't need you. I just need myself to be happy, right?
Yeah.
But
they're lying to themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's the next, because they really do want love. They really want love, but they pretend that they don't.
Do you think they're just like, if I work hard enough, then I will be loved?
Yeah, like they find the reward in, they've misguided or misdirected their energy, their love energy, right? So it's into their work, like, so they're like, this is my passion, this is what I love doing. I don't need people.
Yeah,
right? This is my thing.
Maybe
my money. I need my money.
I think you're describing me right now.
Yeah, so that's the thing, is like you'll hear these things and you're like, oh my God, that's me. So like you might be a dismissive avoidant, and then there's the anxious attacher. And the anxious attachers are like, I just need somebody to love. I just need, oh my God, if I could find somebody to love. And then if somebody isn't loving them, they're like, please love me. Like, just love me a bit. Just love me. Oh, come on. Like, what's wrong? Like, is it something that I said? You're going to leave me. Like, they also are worried that people are going to leave them all the time. So the anxious attachers are literally anxious. But the fearful avoidant, which only makes up apparently 5% of the population.
You're rare. You're one of the rare breeds.
Yeah, but in comedy, I think it's probably 80% of comics are fearful avoidance. And it's funny, you can tell when they're for sure avoidance, or fearful avoidance, when they're trying to get the attention of somebody who's sitting in the crowd with their arms crossed, not having any fun, and they're like, well, why aren't you having fun? Like, they're very aware. They're like, this guy's not having fun. Come on, you're like, uncross your arms. You're going to have a good time.
Yeah.
Right? They're also, fearful avoidance are very empathetic with people.
Okay.
And so you're understanding, because you're very aware. You can walk into any room and be like, oh my God, these people aren't enjoying this. These people are like angry at these people. Like, you can kind of pick up on everything.
You can kind of tell. Okay.
Yeah, so that's why I think comics are that way. They can really read a room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. How does that translate to like a love life? Because like the fearful avoidant with comedy, it's like impressing the dude that's like this in the corner. But how about in love? Like
in love,
going for someone who's like not into you, kind of, or
yeah. So like with me, it's the worst of both worlds in a way. Where like if somebody's not into you, you want, like, let's say they gave you a little bit of love.
Yeah.
And then they pulled away. Then for me, I'd be like, my anxious side would kick in, and I'd be like, oh my God, please just, you gotta like me. Like, I'll do anything. I'll make this work. It'll work. I'll make this work out. And then they go, okay, I'm going to commit. Then you're like, get off of me. Like, leave me alone. I don't need this. Right? So it's kind of like, you're kind of stuck in a
this like weird purgatory.
Yeah, you're in a purgatory. Yeah. Where deep down you really do want love, but it's unless you work on yourself, which I'm trying. That's probably what I'm doing now in my life.
That's great to hear, though.
Yeah.
Did you find it harder in the beginning of your career when you were kind of going through the trenches to focus on love at all? Because
no, because I didn't focus on love.
Oh, you didn't even.
Yeah, like a fearful avoidant will either go one of two ways.
Okay.
They'll either find a relationship after a relationship after a relationship, sleep with many people, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna, right? Or the other side where they just are like, nope, I'm a monk. That's it.
Wow.
I shut off. I'm gonna be completely, not celibate, but what's it called when you're, is it celibate?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, when you're like, monogamous is one person, celibate, so like just not doing anything with anyone and not caring on that kind of level. The other thing that's crazy about fearful avoidance is that we open up, or people think we do.
Okay.
But we only open up to a level of comfortability that we're comfortable with sharing. So that's, I think, where comics also come into play, where they can share what people think is the most deepest, darkest things about themselves, but the comic's okay with it.
Yeah.
They're not really opening up.
You don't think so? How much of the percent are they opening up of themselves?
Well, they'll, if they're okay with it, it'll be up until that wall.
Like 90?
Yeah, like and for me, like, you do go in baby steps, right? So like you do start revealing a little more of yourself, and they're like, okay, now I'm okay with this. So then you can walk up to this point, and then you might like push the boundary, but you're not like, if someone's on stage and you think that they're like fully open and they're just letting it fly, and they're like, when people say that, I'm like, you're not though. So you can kind of read who they are. Yeah, but they are opening up. They're just not opening up as deep as you might think.
So when would a comic open up like 100% of themselves at all? To anybody? To themselves only?
To somebody who they really trust. To somebody who they really care for. But the fear of abandonment prevents them from doing that. And an audience is for sure not somebody who's there for them through the thick and thin.
Yeah.
So why would they open up completely to them when they would get hurt?
Yeah,
because the audience leaves them after the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're talking about the beginning of your career. You kind of had this celibate stage, but then now you're moving towards
this time of just not doing anything. Yeah.
But then now you're moving towards kind of like you're trying to open up.
Mm-hmm.
So what was there like a specific event that made you like click that thing in your brain that was just like, okay, I'm gonna try now?
Yeah, like I think because I was the dismissive side.
Yeah.
Like was really heavy. Like I think with fearful avoidance, you kind of like waver through
back
between.
And forth.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like in my social world, I'm able to shut off from love and just be like, but be open there. But for friends, I'm like fairly open, but I'm not fully open, I feel.
Oh, yeah.
And then but then in relationships, my anxious side would kick in, and I'd probably drive people away by trying to fix things all the time and being like, how can we solve this problem, right?
Yeah.
And then, just choosing wrong people for me, I guess.
Yeah.
And then, but in comedy, it became my thing. That was my love. Like, it still is. Like, it's like the thing that I love doing. So I put all my love and energy into that. And then once again, I'm lost. Where were we going with this?
Yeah, I was just asking if there was like a specific event.
That triggered that. Yeah,
triggered that.
I think multiple relationships coming to an end.
Okay.
And you're like, what? Like, you're the common denominator. And when I say you, I mean me.
Yeah, of course.
You're not me.
Yeah.
But you are me in the grand scheme of things. We're all connected. Isn't it crazy? You are me, I'm you.
Yeah.
And like we're all, it's like, I'm you living your life, but you're me living my life. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, like it's so
in
wild.
like an atom sense?
Yeah, like we both have in the atom sense, we're both created the exact same way.
Yeah.
But then it's like, you turned out the way you are based off of who your parents were, based off of your upbringing.
Yeah.
I turned out the way I am based off of,
Yeah.
But we're the exact same energy.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah. I want to move on to the next phase.
Okay.
The next phase of
the
the
next
podcast.
phase of my life.
Next phase of life.
Oh, we're aging through here right now.
Yeah, can you tell the future?
This is almost like the Judgment Day. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm just going through my life, telling you about everything, and
I like to get vulnerable on the podcast.
That's good. Yeah.
About human truth, And then to the perfect transition. What is there any ultimate truth you've realized about your life? Like my whole thing is about the pursuit of truth. I think truth is peace of mind because you get wisdom from it. And I think peace of mind is ultimately happiness because our evolved nature rewards pessimism. But right now we're much safer.
What do you mean it rewards pessimism?
Like, say if you and I were in a forest together like 1,000 years ago, and I was like, we both heard a noise, and then I was just like, yo, that's like a tiger, and you're like, no, it's a rabbit. I'm like, no, it's a tiger, trust me. And then you go in, it's a rabbit. 9 out of 10 times it's a rabbit, but the one time it's a tiger, like you perish, I live. So like just.
Oh yeah. So then you go, I knew it. I wasn't supposed. Yeah. He shouldn't have gone out there.
Yeah, and I think that's like right now everybody. Like it's just built within us as humans, but we have to learn to go past that. And like our minds are just constant chatterboxes telling us like we're wrong, like everything's bad, like you need to stay safe. But and the news even just makes it even worse by saying like
compounds?
Yeah. So it's learning to look past that, finding peace of mind through truth. So that's why I think truth is an important value to me. But is there any ultimate truth you've realized within your own life?
I think IQ doesn't mean anything if you have a low EQ. I was thinking about this today, trying to explain this. And it came to me in a dream this morning, not bragging, but it was like this morning, I realized that people who have a low emotional quotient or whatever it is, what does IQ stand for?
Intelligence. Quotient? Yeah, quotient. I've never thought of that.
Yeah, so intelligent quotient. And I think people who have a low emotional quotient doesn't matter your IQ, because if you have feelings that fly every which way, your mind shuts off. And I had mentioned it earlier about if you get angry on stage, you're not thinking.
Yeah.
You can be Einstein, and if you're raging, you're not thinking properly. So yeah, it doesn't matter what you know. If you have a low EQ, you're gonna have a low IQ.
So how would one control their emotions, I guess?
Be aware of what triggers them. Be aware of what causes them to boil up, I guess.
Yeah.
And I'm not necessarily even talking about rage. Like rage is, I think, a common one because that's why they're on their phones. And I think that's my conspiracy side of things. That's why they keep you angry. That's why they keep everyone angry, fighting with one another.
Yeah.
Because once they start fighting with one another and they feel that this group of people or these people are the reason why my life is the way it is, I'm so mad, that person's not thinking. And so and then within your family, you're probably arguing, you're probably yelling, but then you're not thinking.
Yeah.
You're not really thinking. You're just going off your feelings. You're not smart.
Yeah, it's like kind of taking a step back and looking at your emotions objectively, like as a separate entity from yourself.
Exactly. And so that's why I think everyone should do comedy, because it gives you that moment to realize where you are. Then you step back. And in comedy, it goes, well, what's the funny about this? Right? Whereas in the actual healthy way of being like, what does this mean? Right?
Interesting.
Yeah. So I think everyone should be a comedian and learn from it.
Learn the art. Yeah. You were talking earlier, just within the quote, if you have a low IQ. Conan O'Brien, he mentioned the perfect balance of comedy is between smart and stupid. Right?
100% it is. And that's what my album is very much smart and stupid.
I listened to it twice. There was some I fucking was dying out, but then some of them I just didn't understand.
Yeah.
I'm like, I like legit just...
some of them I don't even think I even understand when I wrote it. You know, I'm kidding. There was some that I wrote and then I'd do research on. And I'm like, oh, wow. Like, this is on another level. And sometimes things work out so well. Yeah, that I'm like, this is also so dumb, but also so dumb.
So dumb. Yeah. I was listening to it with my parents. My parents are just at square one right now. I was listening to them with it in the car and like trying to decipher like these things in my brain, and then they just start dying. Like they just like got it right away.
Yeah, because it leads you on a path. So it's like hopefully there's one joke in each one that hopefully garners the laugh. Yeah. Right? But then within it, they're like, oh, this is why they referenced this. This is why, when I say they, me, this is why this person, me, once again. And so once I don't know, now I'm talking, I'm like, I'm so confused with pronouns, I, they, and we, me, you. So when I wrote this, there was some things that, it's almost like comparable, I guess, in my mind to The Simpsons.
Yes,
where like you listen to it and you're like, oh, that's funny, but you don't know why it's funny, and then something will happen to you where you'll experience it again later on in life, and you're like, that joke from 5 years ago, that's what he meant. That's funny. Yeah.
Let me know. Tell me about your whole process about just coming up with this. Were you a big science person back in the day?
Like I've always loved science, and like the idea of like science where it meets spirituality.
Okay.
Yeah, so like, you know, physics and then chemistry, chemical reactions, like they talk about love is chemistry, but also like us interacting is both our own chemistry, but also our own physics that we are entangled. And then there's biology, which makes up, so I am very interested in science from just a comic dork. Right?
Yeah,
so
of course.
It's more of the comedic side of things and wondering how we work together and how we all coexist. But then with this, it was a friend talking about NFTs.
Yeah.
So
NFTs was a huge thing. Back in the day.
And they're still around.
Yeah.
They haven't gone anywhere. They're going to come back huge, and everyone will be like, oh yeah, NFTs just like back in 2020 or whatever. Yeah. Yeah, but they're coming. It's coming again.
And all the jokes are...
Oh yeah,
NFTs.
sorry. So my friend was like, "Hey, if you're gonna release," because I was like, "Do they have a sketch album?" He goes, "No, there's no such thing as a NFT sketch album." I'm like, "Well, that's what I want to do." And then he said that usually people will release something that has to have like there's like a collectible element of it, like a finite amount. And I'm like, and in my mind, I don't know where it came from, but my mind was like, oh, the periodic table of elements, there's 118 of them. Each one they're already funny. Like they already have like science geeks love the like wordplay and like dumb humor. And I'm like, that's what I want to do. So I created these.
Yeah, that's a great thing to hear. Guys, please check it out, the periodic table.
Periodic jokes.
Sorry, the periodic
Also
jokes.
check out the periodic table.
Check out the
It's very
periodic
important. You're made up of pretty much all of the elements that are on there.
Yeah, look at the periodic table and listen to periodic jokes at the same time. They're all NFTs.
Yeah, or just even streaming. Like it's still just an audio album as well. Also follow on Instagram or TikTok. If you're from America, I'm sorry. It's just Instagram. They're losing TikTok.
Oh, yeah, they are, yes. Oh, the whole country? I thought it was just one specific state.
Oh, no, I think Biden passed the thing to ban TikTok. But I don't know. Like, I'm just going off of Instagram.
Yeah. I like to ask my guests, we have about 5 minutes left on the podcast. Okay. I like to ask my guests these questions, just kind of like as a outro. But do you think there's any type of like big cosmic meaning to life?
I wonder. No, I don't think so.
No?
I don't think I think the meaning is whatever you find in life. So I think it's a person-to-person basis, because some people find no meaning in their life. Yeah. And they'll be like, oh, there's no point. But then someone else will be like, I really love the periodic table of elements. Yeah. And I'm going to focus so much on that. Oh, I've learned a lot from this. Maybe the meaning of life was but it is not. But I think anytime that you get the idea of what it is, you lose it.
Okay.
It's something else.
Yeah.
Like, because it's always forever changing, and it's quantum entanglement. You're never going to get it. Just keep doing.
Just keep doing?
Yeah.
Your personal meaning to life is
I think there's you find your own meaning.
How about you right now?
Oh, what it is right now?
Yeah, for you.
So right now is I'm working on the inside. I've worked on the outside, and now I'm like kind of turning inwards. Yeah. So even it changes my comedy, I think, or it's changing my comedy. Yeah. Yeah, and I feel that my meaning now, and that's the thing, is your meaning can change. Yeah. Of what you find important, and so right now it's an internal thing.
Yeah. Going through the like internal world of Garret Jamieson.
Exactly. Why do I do the things that I do? Yeah. Objectify myself. Like look back, stand back from myself, and be like, why did I act this way, or why did I respond to this way? Oh, this is who I am. Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. I've spent so much time looking at other people and looking at other things in the outside world where I'm like, now I'm looking in.
What advice would you have for people who are kind of that haven't found that meaning? That you say we're all trying to look for it. Mm-hmm. Say the dude who's just aimless right now. What would you say to him?
How to find a meaning?
How to find meaning? How to find purpose? How to find fulfillment?
Yeah. What do you like? Start there. What do you like? Because most people, when you ask them as well, when they go, "What do you want?" and they go, "Oh, like I want to, I
want to be happy.
I want to be happy."
That's like the most.
Well, what does that mean? Yeah. What does that mean to you? Happy and successful? And it's like, oh well, just start with I want to make doorstops. And I want to make the best doorstops. Yeah. Then go out and make the best doorstops you can. Really take that, and then you'll find the doorstop was invented at this time by this person. Who was this person? Why did they invent the doorstop? And then you start getting into the doorstop and the angles of it, and you're like, oh my God, the angles of the doorstop. The perfect doorstop it has the 1.6 golden ratio in it. And you're like, oh, the golden ratio is also people's faces and what makes beauty. You're like, oh well, and then you start to see how it's all connected just from the doorstop you started building.
Yeah. If you were to kind of look at...
It also opens up doors.
Yeah, it also opened up doors. If you were to say that whole statement, but with comedy, like comedy is just to make people laugh, but then looking back at it, like from 16 years now, what would you say is it objectively as a statement?
For me, it's a lot of introspective work and a lot of learning of who I am. On the outside, it's very... selfish and selfless, because it's selfish in the sense that And when you first start out, it's more of an ego stroke. Then you realize that that's silly, that fame and all that stuff isn't worth it. But then you also realize that it's for the audience. And the audience is coming to you to make themselves happy. But you're like, I'm not going to give that to you. You have to do that on your own. I'm more like a drug where I give you an hour and a half of escape and you feel better and you leave thinking that you're happy, but you go back to your regular life. Yeah, so there's just like, but then in that moment, there's the magic moments, the now, living in, there's all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think what I learned is just have fun.
Just have fun. That's a perfect way to end the podcast.
Perfect.
Thank you, Garret Jamieson, so much.
And that's the other thing. Even if it wasn't perfect, it would be perfect.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thanee you so much for having me.
I really appreciate it. Anything to plug? Just give all your plugs.
So plugs, 3-prong. It's just a
Asian plug.
Yeah, Asian plug. Yeah. We got so many different types of plugs.
EU.
Man. Yeah. EU plugs, UK plugs. Oh my God, different plugs around the world. So then hair plugs. There's a few plugs. Boat, so your boat doesn't sink. The plug there. Anyway.
Oh yeah, that one. The bathtub plug.
The bathtub plug. The sink plug. Don't forget, and the kitchen sink. Everything but the kitchen sink plug. But yeah, for sure, check out Periodic Jokes. It's streaming everywhere. Also, follow me on Instagram, TikTok if you're not in the States. I don't know, they might revoke it, and you might still have it. So check me out, because on there I will post where I'm going to be, where I'm going to perform. I really enjoyed hanging out today.
Cool. Thank you so much. Thanks for watching the podcast. Stay on Average Fools.